G'day guys, and welcome back to Alf's Barbecue. It's Australian summer. Listen to those cicadas, beautiful sunshine. That means let's get the barbecue out. We've got a brisket flat. Let's go. So as everybody knows, the brisket flat is the leaner half of the brisket. When I'm looking for a brisket flat, I'm looking for something that still has a reasonable amount of fat on top, as well as some great marbling. There's a little bit of fat there, as you can see, which I'm going to trim away, but generally the fat cap is pretty much there and I do not need to touch it. Preparation is super simple, so grab yourself a sharp knife. I like to use this boning knife. It's super good to handle and it gets the job done in no time. So I'm just working away at that loose fat on the base of my brisket. The base of the brisket is where my rub is going to be hitting the meat, so I'm going to get maximum flavour. I'm not even going to touch that fat cap. It's going to act as protection whilst it's in the smoker, and it's also going to give me some tremendous flavour. When it comes to brisket rubs, there's so many on the market, but find yourself something which is salt and pepper based. If you like to use a binder, get yourself some olive oil, some Worcestershire sauce. I like to use a little bit of yellow mustard just to act as that binder for my rub. Preparation done, pretty simple. I prepared this the night before, so I'm going to throw this in the fridge now overnight. Good morning. Alright, so we prepped that brisket last night. It's been sitting in the fridge for about 7 hours or so. I've got the akorn out. We're going to fire this thing up. Let's get smoking. I've set myself up with a bit of a snake method here with some lump charcoal as well as some briquettes. So, light it up. I'm also going to be throwing in some cherry wood chunks today for that additional smoky flavour. I'm going to throw on my heat deflector as well as a tray of water that will help me regulate the temperature within the smoker. And then on goes the grill. Don't close your lid yet. You still want those coals to get a little bit hotter. Once it is warm enough, close your lid and get your dampers open. So I'm going to be shooting for a temperature of about 250 degrees Fahrenheit for this cook. What I'm doing now, I've got my top damper open, my bottom damper open. We're going to get this thing up to temperature pretty quickly. As soon as we hit about 200 degrees Fahrenheit, we're going to close these dampers off so we can suffocate the fire, but just enough there to keep me at a low and slow temperature. So although I'm sitting at about 150 degrees Fahrenheit, I'm going to put the brisket on now. I know the grill so well. I know once I hit 200, I'm going to control that temperature absolutely fine. There's no dirty smoke coming through now. So I'm going to get the brisket on, start the cooking process, and just pay attention to that temperature. We are going to start this cook fat cap down. That's so I can get some nice smokiness across the base of that brisket. Now that I'm hitting that 200 degrees Fahrenheit, I'm going to close my top and bottom damper so it's just below the 1 setting. Alright, so about 2.5 hours into the smoke, I haven't opened the akorn at all. Some people like the spritz, but that's why I've got the water pan there to help control the temperature, but also keep a little bit of moisture in there as well. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to open it up, just flip the brisket over so I can give it about 2.5 hours with fat cap up the top. Four hours into the cook and I'm maintaining temperature beautifully. My flat is showing about 162 degrees Fahrenheit, so I'm just about in that stall. I'm going to give it a quick look just to see how it's going. At this stage, we're ticking along just fine. Okay, so
I'm in the stall, 165 degrees. I'm just going to leave it. It's looking pretty good. I'm just going to let the temperature keep rising, try and build that bark as much as I can. The ward pan underneath, it probably is going to sacrifice the bark a little bit, but I'm just going to let it roll, probably give it a wrap at about 180 to 185 just to make sure it's nice and tender for dinner.
Again, in typical Australian summer fashion, there's a threat of a storm coming. So once I was 180 degrees, I decided to wrap the brisket in some beef tallow in some butcher's paper. I'm also going to throw that on a foil tray just to help retain any additional fat that may be rendering. Throw it back into the smoker until it gets up to temperature.
When you wrap it in some butcher's paper, you will see the temperature drop a little bit. That's normal, just don't worry about it. Keep that lid shut now and let it cook until it gets to about 200 to 205 degrees Fahrenheit. Then start giving it a little bit of a prod and make sure it's nice and tender.
When you're hitting around that 200 degrees Fahrenheit range, get yourself a thermometer or a toothpick. You just want to be probing it to make sure that it's probing nice and tender. And you're going to know what that feels like because it's going to slide straight in, straight out with no resistance. Once that's happening, wrap it up and let it rest for a minimum of 2 hours. We allowed ours to rest for 2.5 hours and we're hungry, it's dinner time. So let's slice up our brisket. You can never waste that beautiful au jus, lovely beef tallow. We've got ourselves a nice, tender looking beef brisket flat. I'll be honest with you, I was hoping for a bit of a better smoke ring. There's a hint of a smoke ring there, but I have got better smoke rings than this in the past. Either way though, it's super smoky.
Well, I'm not going to lie, the kids were hungry, we dug in, we had some dinner. As you can see on the footage, it bent over pretty well, it was very, very tender, it was extremely tasty, absolutely goddamn delicious. So go and get yourself a brisket flat. If you've got an akorn kamado, pretty easy to use once you get the hang of it. Enjoy guys, catch you again on the next one.
So there you go guys. Learn your dampers. Once you know your dampers, it's almost like a pellet smoker. Set and forget. I use my ThermPro simply because it just gives me that little bit of additional reassurance that I know exactly where the temperature is. But otherwise, guys, enjoy. Thanks for watching. See you again soon.